begin. Bank of Ireland is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Whether it's in the cupboard, under the bed, or down the side of the couch, if you can find your smartphone, you can trade it in for an average of €130 at Vodafone, where we'll recycle and repurpose it. Good for your pocket and the planet. Search Vodafone Trade-In or visit your local Vodafone store to find out more. So, where's yours? Vodafone. Together we can.
Trade-in is subject to trading in an eligible device. Average trade-in value is €130. For full terms, see vodafone.ie/terms.
It's the biggest game of the season, and now is the place to stream it live. Stream Man City versus Arsenal Wednesday, 8 p.m. with the Now Sports Extra membership from $11.99. Join in at nowtv.com. 18 plus membership required. Terms apply.
With the brighter days, it's only natural to think about freshening up the paintwork in our homes, bringing colour and vibrancy to our living spaces. But the important thing isn't just the colours we choose, it's the paint. Fleetwood use the highest quality ingredients for a richer colour and smoother finish that lets you wipe away the marks of everyday life. And it's Irish made, designed to work with the ever-changing Irish light. Would one range of paints transform your home? Fleetwood would, naturally. If you've been the victim of a crime, it can sometimes feel like you've been left in the dark with nowhere to turn for answers or support. But help is always available, no matter who you are or what your background. Victimscharter.ie provides information on translation services, explains your rights, and offers the support you need when you need it most. You have rights, you have support, you have a voice. Find yours in the Victims Charter. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Guaranteed Irish business members like Peninsula continue to sustain jobs and communities across Ireland. Peninsula is committed to delivering professional excellence in HR and employment law services. With over 25 years of supporting businesses all over Ireland, Peninsula's approach tailors HR services specifically for your needs. Success starts here. Visit peninsulaireland.com or call 1-800-719029 to schedule your complimentary HR consultation. So look out for the G. Guaranteed Irish. Altogether better.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. So, as discussed, it's all about the Etihad this evening. It is not often that 90 minutes feels so significant in a Premier League title race, but here we are. Arsenal, so good for so much of the season. They have surprised us all and they have just 6 games left. A win tonight and they're very much in control of their own destiny. The problem, of course, is that bang in form, scary good Manchester City stand in their way. Team news is in. Ederson in goal for Man City. The back 3/4, they are very much an in possession, out of possession lineup, obviously. But Kyle Walker is in that defensive line with Ruben Diaz and Akanji. John Stones will be in midfield and defence. Rodri alongside him. Bernardo Silva gets the nod ahead of Mahrez, as has been the case of late in these bigger games. De Bruyne and Gundogan in midfield together. Jack Grealish on the left-hand side. And scorer of 41% of Manchester City's goals, Erling Haaland, leads the line. As for Arsenal, well, for John Stones, you can read Zinchenko. He starts. Gabriel and Rob Holding in the centre of increasingly leaky defence of late. Ben White is at right back. It's Odegaard, Partey and Xhaka is fit. Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka for Arsenal. So it is all set up. David Meyler is still with us at the Etihad. Mark Ogden from ESPN joins us as well. You're there, Mark?
Hi, how you doing?
Very well. Important point. David had 2 helpings of the chicken korma this evening. How many did you go for yourself?
There was none left, so none. So maybe somebody must have had double portions.
Yeah.
There wasn't much there, Joe.
There wasn't a lot of chicken in it.
No, there wasn't.
I'm curious, I'll ask you both this. I'll start with you, Mark. The Arsenal psychology, maybe we won't fully know what's been going on behind the scenes until players are a bit more comfortable to talk freely in due course. But it would be interesting to know how they have framed this evening. If this is a group who are saying to themselves, if you'd offered us this opportunity at the start of the season, we would have jumped at it. Or if there is more a feeling of, my God, this wonderful, rare chance that we have is slipping away, we are creaking.
Yeah, it has to be the latter, doesn't it? I think you get to this point in the season, you don't think of where you started out thinking, well, this would have been nice. I think I think it's the latter. I think they'll add a bit of panic as well into that, because I think it's quite a young squad that hasn't been anywhere near this kind of position before. So we all saw what happened last season when they completely blew up in the running for top 4, and there'll be a few maybe scars of that running. So I just think you look around the Arsenal squad, and as talented as it is, it's very young. It's either very young and promising, or a lot of players like the likes of Shaq, the older players that have seen a lot of failure. So I just think they're looking at Man City as a big scary animal tonight, and I think they're probably, I'd imagine, they're quite worried about how it's going to go.
What's your best guess, David?
I probably agree. It's youth and inexperience, being in this situation of actually going to try and win a league title. There's not many can say that, and this is a very young squad. You look at when we threw the Arsenal team, you look at, say, that 3 up front for them, if you leave out Jesus, because obviously the success he had, they're almost inexperienced of this position to get over the line. And you know that Manchester City have won 4 of the last 5. They're an incredible machine. They just keep going. And I think the most frustrating thing would be when you look back at the previous 3 draws, it's the West Ham and Southampton games. They're the ones that you expect them to win. Liverpool going to Anfield, they've not really had a great record there. They'd have taken that draw, but it's those 2 games have been really the killer blow. And then coming away to the Etihad. If it was at the Emirates, you might say something different, being at home, but being away, Manchester City is just a different animal here. And you look at the goals they score, the players they have. It's going to be a big ask, but I'm expecting a very good game.
Mark, I presume you're at lots of the press conferences. What would you say of Arteta's demeanour in recent months? Has it changed in any way?
Not really in press conferences. I'd say more on the touchline. I think we've seen his frustration. Well, he's always been a bit active on the touchline, let's be honest. But I think in recent games, you've seen he's looked a little bit more stressed. I think he's looked a little bit more concerned. And I think that his face during the Southampton game was a bit of a giveaway, in the sense that he feels that he's done really, really well to get this team where they are. I mean, nobody would have said this at the start of the season, that Arsenal would be here where they are. But I just think maybe they make this analogy over here about walking a Ming vase over a marble floor, and I think that's what he's done so far with Arsenal this season. But I think now he's beginning to shake in his hands a little bit, and it's just got really close. But I think what you've also got to factor in as well, they've been so far ahead, but their season has been a bit disjointed, in the sense that a lot of their tough games are coming now. Liverpool away, Man City away, Newcastle away still to come. So it's almost like a 400-metre race that the staggers begin to unwind, and we're seeing that actually Arsenal have had a softer run to this point than City have, and they're now finding it tough. They're a very good team, but I just think tonight is going to be too much for them.
It does feel as well, David, that in recent weeks Man City have just really smoothed out the wrinkles that were visible earlier in the season, post Cancelo's departure, and Guardiola expressing a certain unhappiness with the attitude of the team, and Calvin Phillips not training because of his weight. All those little bits and bobs were happening. De Bruyne's form wasn't amazing. It feels of late City have just cranked into gear in a big way. That has to feature in Arsenal minds. Like, they're just, I think, Mark, you call them like a monster, this presence that aren't going to give them anything. That must add to the pressure. They must be conscious of City. They must be watching City in the Champions League of a given week. That has to factor in here.
Oh, it does. And if you think about it, that's why Pep Guardiola gets paid the big bucks. It's because he manages the big players, and he obviously felt at certain times situations weren't right. Obviously you touched on the Cancelo situation. He spat his dummy out a bit when he went to Munich about enjoying it more, but he just finds a way to get fellas focused. And you knew that they're always in and around Arsenal. There was a good gap, but even now they're 5 points ahead with 2 games in hand, but you expect Man City to win those games. That's the thing. He gets those players firing, he gets them going, and they just find a way to get the job done. And you look at it now, they're fighting on all fronts of the 3 competitions. We all expect him to probably go and win all 3 competitions and win the treble. That's what he's created, and they're almost mentality monsters, and they just find a way to get the job done. And I agree with Mark that this is going to be a big ask for Arsenal. I think they'll make a game of it, but I just feel they'll come up a little bit short.
And David, what kind of game do you expect? For instance, Zinchenko and Stones both going into midfield. Like, if Pep might think to himself that any manager in the league will have an inner sense of his workings, it is Arteta. So to what extent that factors into proceedings, I don't know. But on general play, what kind of game are you expecting, David?
It's a bit like The Master of the Apprentice, isn't it? Because of how much Mikel would have learned from Pep over the years. And then your worry is almost, will he overthink it? Will either one of them overthink it? and they start going, well, I think he's going to do this, and I'll change this, whether it be formation, the systems, like we touched on there about looking at how Manchester City will set up at the back line. Just from the warm-up, Manuel Akanji, was over the far side singing balls with his left foot. He might be the one that could slot out to left back. Who knows? But I'm expecting a clash of two very good teams. It's going to be open, dynamic football. We use the buzzwords now a lot in football with the transitions. I think once Manchester City have Arsenal pinned in, when Arsenal turn over that ball, they're going to try and exploit the spaces, use their speed. Your Martinelli, your Saka, Odegaard is the clever one. I think he's the one that Rodri's going to have to get round when Arsenal do have that bit of possession. And of course, it's just going to come down to the two number 9s. We know the form Haaland's in, the amount of goals he scored. And Jesus, then, can he be the one to almost put the sword in his former club?
It's very striking, Mark. Pep in these bigger games always looks to Bernardo Silva. Even a Mahrez hat-trick in a routine FA Cup win is not going to sway him from that.
No, I just think Silva has more defensively. He's a bit more tenacious than Riyad Mahrez. Mahrez is a brilliant player, and I think he's one of the more underrated players in the Premier League. He's done it consistently for 5 or 6 years, but Silva does have that extra dimension of work rate, and I think he doesn't lack in skill, does he, attacking player? So I think that is the reason why he's picked him. But I'll say one thing I've noticed tonight, I just think it might be quite interesting in the sense of how it goes. I've been to games here over the years, when they played Liverpool, when it's been really, really tight for the title, and even back in the day when they played Man United in that big decisive game, there's a real tension around the place and a real nervousness, but I don't sense any nervousness tonight. It's almost like everyone at City is so relaxed because they've been down this road before that they feel kind of chilled out by it, and that might be a bit dangerous.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because you're right. I was at do you remember the Manchester City Man United game when Company scored the header? There was that nervousness and tension around it, and everyone does seem very relaxed. You hear people speaking on the way in, they kind of just feel that Manchester City are going to turn up and roll them over. But that Arsenal are going to have a game plan. They're going to make it very difficult, and they do have players that can hurt City.
Well, I suppose on that point we are dancing around the obvious here. Arsenal are without Saliba and they're missing him, so it's Gabriel who definitely has a mistake in him, and Rob Holding against Haaland. And it's striking in terms of how these two go about their goal scoring business. Arsenal, they're on course to break 90 goals. That would be the first time in Premier League history they'll have managed that. They have 3 players in double digits in Martinelli, Saka and Odegaard. In the Premier League alone, they're in double digits. And Jesus, minus 3 months injured, is on 9. Whereas City, who are closing in on 100 goals, they only have 1 player past 9 in league goals. It just so happens he scored 32 of them. So he's just a freak, David, and it's hard to imagine Gabriel and Holding stopping him this evening.
It is, but it's hard seeing any Premier League centre-half stopping him. The goals he scored. It doesn't matter, he can score any type of goal. He can take the ball into feet, he can shove it by someone and score. He's got great movement. Obviously when you've got the likes of Silva, Grealish, De Bruyne putting the ball into these areas, his movement is excellent. He's the complete package. And you can imagine, look, I hate pinpointing players, but you can see him pulling onto Rob Holding. Like you look at Mikel Antonio, he got onto him and he gave him a tough afternoon, and you can just see Haaland, and there'll be something that Pep will identify. We look at that ball from De Bruyne that gets whipped in around the back, you can just see Haaland peeling onto him and cleaning up.
Mark, I find when I'm watching on TV my eyes are drawn to him. I presume it's double the case when you're at all these games.
Yeah, I mean, he is an amazing player. But one thing I'll say about Haaland was when I came to the cup tie against Arsenal just after the World Cup, and Holding played that night, and he played really well. And one thing that he had a lot of success with, he almost rattled Haaland physically. The one thing that Haaland doesn't really enjoy is when a defender really gets stuck into the back of him and makes it physical and gets into him. And I think Haaland enjoys running behind the defender and having the goal in front of him. When Arsenal really got into him and they were doubling up on him at times and getting a bit physical, he didn't enjoy it. He's a big lad, but he's not a very physical centre forward, so maybe that could be the Arsenal tactic tonight. But obviously it's high risk, because if you let him go once, he'll score. So but he's probably the world's best striker right now, isn't he? One of the best we've ever seen. So
it's interesting. I always I thought he enjoyed a bit of aggro. So that's not your sense.
No, I don't think he does. I think the teams that have had a bit of success are the ones that have kicked. Everton really got stuck into it. He lost his rag that game. So I mean, it's a physical game, isn't it? I think despite his physique, he's not an aggressive player. So But like I say, if that's all you've got, then you think all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Let's send Meyler out there to kick him. That's what they're left with, really.
Oh, well, no. My days of doing that now are gone.
So, final thoughts. I don't need to be too adept at picking up the vibe here. You both really fancy City this evening to win and then to go on to win the league and probably the treble. That's where your head's at, David.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I think City will win tonight 3-2. I can see them beating Madrid. Obviously, then you've got the Milan boys on the other side. So once they get past Madrid, I think they'll beat both them. And then United City Cup final. I can't see United beating City. So I fancy them to start tonight. And if they get that done, I think the confidence will go through the roof. And they'll be smelling themselves and they'll go on and win it all. Yeah,
I guess the hope you might cling to, Mark, is that Arsenal have surprised us plenty this season already.
I don't know. Not tonight. I mean, I do think City got a couple of tricky games on the running yet. They've got, Brighton away last midweek of the season when Brighton might be pushing. Brighton are a good team and they might be pushing for a place in Europe. And then if it goes to the last game of the season, Brentford away. We've seen Brentford turn a lot of good teams over at Brentford this season, but maybe I'm just clutching at straws a little bit. But I think the FA Cup is going to have blue ribbons on it, and the Champions League, it's Real Madrid, so never ever write off Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, that feels like the big hurdle.
He's gone conservative there, Joe. I'm going all in.
Yeah, it's starting to feel that way, I have to say. But I mean, Mark, it's a question for another day, and we've got to go. But it's going to be interesting to see how this treble is greeted. It will be pointed to as an example of just how ill football is in many ways if City do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the debate, but we're taking all that away. A lot of clubs have spent a lot of money. I mean, I think Man United have probably matched them over the years in terms of fees and wages, and look at the mess they're in. So yeah, City have done it with the best players, the best coach. They've been very smart in what they've done. Yes, it won't please a lot of people, but if they do it, they'll have done it playing fantastic football. So, but there's a bit of life this season yet, and I think don't give up yet, Man United fans.
Fellas, thank you so much. You can read Mark's pieces on ESPN. David, of course, is on commentary in just a few moments with Nathan Murphy. And as you could hear there at the Etihad, we are almost ready to go. So short ad break and then it's kick-off in what really feels title deciding is Manchester City against Arsenal next.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live on Sky Sports. Listen to News Talk on Smart Speaker. Play News Talk.
News Talk. Conversation that counts.
At Tesco, we've prices to make you smile. Simply scan your club card or app.
Club card accepted.
And boom. I've got the power. The prices go down.